everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Hannibal reaction video. Alright, so today I'm going to be watching, reviewing, and reacting to Season 1, Episode 10 of Hannibal. Just a quick message, if you're watching this on YouTube and you've recently started discovering my Hannibal reactions and you're trying to go back and watch them and you're like, oh wait, most of them don't seem to be here. I've had some issues with NBC copyright blocking my Hannibal videos, not all of them, but a number of them. They are all currently still available through my Patreon. I try to make sure that everything I film is at least available for my patrons, regardless of what happens. So if you recently started watching them and you're curious, that's what's going on. I'll leave a link to my Patreon in the description below in case you want to check it out. No pressure, but just filling in everybody on the situation. And a huge thank you to the people who are currently supporting me on Patreon. It really does help. It makes it a lot easier for me to continue working on these series, especially when I end up having copyright issues to deal with. But alright, so with that being said, let's get into episode 10 here. Let's see what torments Hannibal has in store for poor Will today. Here we go. Yeah, you should... Well, that was fast.
I can feel my nerves clicking like roller coaster cogs pulling up to the inevitable long plunge.
The whole thing with someone under the bed was horrifying.
Abigail Hobbs ended Nicholas Boyle. Like a burst balloon. She took a life.
You've taken a life?
Yeah. Yeah, so have you.
You're grieving, Will. Not for the life you've taken, but for... I'd like you to draw a clock face. Numbered. Small hand indicating the hour, large hand the minute.
Why?
An exercise.
Exercise.
I want you to focus on the present moment, the now. Often as you can, think of where you are. And when. Think of who you are.
7:16 p.m. Baltimore, Maryland. My name is Will Graham.
A simple reminder. A handle to reality for you to hold on to. I know you're alive.
Responsible for it. What do you say? You thought that you killed that woman in there?
You know, sometimes with what I do...
What you do is you take all of the evidence available at a crime scene. You extrapolate. You reconstruct the thinking of a killer. You don't think of yourself as the killer.
I got lost in the reconstruction. Just for a second, just a blink.
I know you don't like to be the cause for concern, but I am officially concerned about you.
Officially?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, you know, it seems like, you know, maybe he shouldn't be out there doing this.
I thought the reason
right
you
now.
had me seeing Dr. Lecter and not an FBI psychiatrist is so my mental well-being stays unofficial.
I just want to be careful with you. We don't want to break you here. Is that what's happening? Have I broken you?
Do you have anyone that does this better unbroken than I do broken?
Fear makes you rude, Will.
I mean, or maybe just honest. He's always rude, what?
And a neurologist. But if it isn't physiological, then you have to accept what you're struggling with. It's mental illness.
Is this what Hannibal wants, for him to think he's mentally ill? Whether he is or isn't? Is that like Hannibal's goal?
You're in very good hands. Dr. Lecter here is one of the sanest men I know.
I would agree. Dr. Sutcliffe and I were residents together at Hopkins.
Another life ago. And what exactly does encephalitis smell like?
It has heat, a fevered sweetness.
If you suspected, why didn't you say something?
To be sure.
The
Symptoms
question
began
at
slowly
hand.
and gradually worsened. Yesterday, I asked him to draw a clock. This is
The
what
fact
he
that
drew.
he's telling this guy all this stuff means he's gonna kill this guy, right?
Spatial neglect, headaches, disorientation, hallucinations, altered consciousness. It's all the telltale signs.
It is so rare to be able to study the psychological effect of this type of malady on a person's mind.
It's more rare still to be able to study the neurological effects.
What?
A doctor has to weigh the ultimate benefit of scientific study. Even in these terms, we know so little about the brain. That great
This
discovery
guy's actually accepting this?
Right side of his brain is completely inflamed.
Oh, Will.
It's anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis. Symptoms are only going to get worse.
I know. It's unfortunate for Will.
And you're not gonna tell him.
What do you smell on me?
Opportunity.
It smells that you're the asshole that would go along with this, I guess.
We didn't find anything abnormal.
Oh my
No
god.
vascular malformations, no tumors, no
So
swelling
it
or
is his
bleeding,
goal
no
is to
evidence
convince
of
Will
stroke.
that he's insane.
The inability to identify others is associated with Kutat. It's a misfiring in the areas of the brain which recognize faces, and also in the amygdala, which adds emotion to those recognitions. Even those closest to her would seem like imposters.
So she reached out to someone she loved, someone she trusted. She felt betrayed, became violent.
She can't trust anything, anyone she once knew to be trustworthy. Her mental illness won't let him.
That means you represent the FBI. You still represent me.
Have I misrepresented you, Jack?
No. But you have me curious. Why are you still here when the both of us know that this is bad for you?
Do you want me to quit?
No. No, you had an opportunity to quit. You didn't take it. Why not? Let me tell you what I think. I think that the work you do here has created a sense of stability for you. Stability is good for you, Will.
Stability requires strong foundations, Jack. My moorings are built on sand.
I'm not sand. I am bedrock. When you doubt yourself, you don't have to doubt me, too.
Jack, I don't know. Uh-oh.
Dr. Sutcliffe? You hear, and while you're ticking away in the MRI, she does this to your doctor.
Hannibal killed that guy.
Why him?
She can't see faces.
Because
Maybe
he
she
knows
thought
about
he
his
was me.
plot.
All right, while we're at it.
But was he also
Why you?
using him to kind of try and
I don't
set
know.
up Will in some way?
I have a habit of collecting strays. I told her, tried to tell her. The night I saw her, I tried to tell her she was alive. Maybe she heard me. I see you, George. Think of who you are. It's midnight. You're in Wolf Trap, Virginia. Your name is Georgia, and I have Jim. You're not alone. We are here together. My life.
Will's very much alive. He's still desperate for an explanation that can make everything right again.
I'm pretty desperate for some explanations myself. Really going to talk to this young woman when she comes to. How much do you think she'll remember?
I sincerely hope for her sake she doesn't remember much.
So she did go there, and all right. Well, that was episode 10. I have to say, I found this one to be a bit gruesome. Alright, that might sound stupid because it's Hannibal and a lot of the episodes have gruesome components, but, and I don't even necessarily mean the killings, though obviously the killings with people's faces sliced open across the mouths, and then the last one about Dr. Sutcliffe at the end there, basically having his head ripped apart, makes me think of, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Peter Jackson version of King Kong where he rips the Tyrannosaurus mouth open. Yeah, made me think of that with Hannibal doing that. But anyway, point being, that isn't as gruesome so much to me as like what was actually happening to the girl, to Georgia, with like her skin sliding off, and that was nice and gruesome. So, but besides it being a rather gruesome episode, it also was an episode that, for me, I think really played up the fear factor, the creep out factor. I'd say that for me, Hannibal isn't something where I tend to get particularly frightened in any way with any episodes, but the whole thing about the silent killer under the bed just kind of dragging you under there, and then yeah, that was pretty creepy. And with Will and under the bed, yeah, that whole thing was very creepy to me. So that's just, you know, an aside about the episode overall. The storyline, I think, obviously is what is essential. And this was a pretty big and disturbing episode, again, for the dynamics between Will and Hannibal and Jack, this kind of like triangle of people trying to figure out Will's mental state, whether he's doing the right thing, trying to control Will in different ways. You have Jack and Hannibal as these two different forces who are simultaneously pushing Will to do kind of the same thing and leading him down the same road, but for very different reasons, while they though think that they're doing kind of the opposite. So Jack is under the impression that, you know, he's actually trying to keep Will stable while simultaneously trying to keep him as a tool, as a force for stopping these killers. But he thinks that he's trying to maintain his mental stability in the process of doing so. I think there's a level of self-denial there, and you can see the cracks in that self-denial wall that continue to come through in episodes like this one, where Jack is seeing how Will is falling apart, and he has to ask himself, you know, am I pushing him to this? Am I actually helping him maintain stability, or is it just so terribly bad for him to be involved in this at all that I am completely responsible for what will eventually be a total breakdown for him? And you do see Jack struggling with that, but in the end, you ultimately see him saying to Will, well, yeah, I struggle with it, and I'll be here as kind of a bedrock for you to kind of depend upon, but ultimately, you're a grown man and an adult and you understand your situation, and I have given you the option to leave and you choose to stay, so I'm not going to tell you that you have to go, especially when I feel like you can do a lot more good here. And actually kind of turning it around almost and saying, maybe I think you found some sort of stability here. And I think that the kind of sad thing about all of this, in my opinion, is that it's possible that that could be true were it not for the involvement of Hannibal. I mean, I can't say that for certain. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Will would be, completely unraveling, even if it wasn't for the encephalitis or the Hannibal trying to drive him mad thing that is happening. Maybe he'd still be unraveling just under the weight of what it is that he is asked to do. Alana felt at the very beginning that Will shouldn't be involved in this at all. So that's possible. But it also is possible that what Jack is saying is right, that he and the Bureau could be a source of stability for Will. The fact that what he can do can bring killers to justice and prevent other people from being killed could be a source of comfort to Will, and it's possible that that would be enough to keep him not in a place where he has no issues and isn't suffering at all, but in a place where he's able to maintain sanity and control it, maybe. But you have these outside factors, one being that he apparently has encephalitis, which is inflaming his brain, which is a huge development and crazy. And then two, that he has Hannibal, who is actively playing mind games with him constantly, sometimes seemingly pushing him in directions that lead him to actually solve these cases he's investigating, and then other times pushing him in ways that seem to bring him into a very negative headspace and to a lot of danger. So, I mean, I think that this episode was kind of the epitome of that, in the fact that we see that Hannibal recognizes that not only is Will kind of unstable and coming apart because of the strain, the mental strain of these cases, but he literally has encephalitis that is cooking his brain. And instead of, trying to get him some sort of treatment, Hannibal is seeing this as a continuation of his ability to play games with Will, manipulate him to whatever purpose that he ultimately has for Will. Whether it actually is an endgame purpose, I don't know, or if Hannibal's just like enjoying the ride, trying to see what can happen. As he said to Dr. Sutcliffe, we don't get a chance to kind of witness these things. Whether that's actually part of Hannibal's game or he was just using that to lure Dr. Sutcliffe into it, I don't know, but he's basically going to allow Will's brain to continue to fry, and convince Will simultaneously that there's nothing physically wrong with him, so that Will believe that he's completely mentally unstable and falling apart. And I'm very curious to see how that's going to continue to develop. If Will doesn't receive treatment for that, eventually he's going to die, so it seems like Hannibal either eventually has to just accept Will dying, which is curious to me since he said before that he likes the idea of Will being his friend, and he clearly was upset at the thought of him dying before, but either he's going to have to accept that, or he's going to have to come up with some sort of way of letting Will know that he's actually sick, and also explaining why that sickness didn't previously show up on these tests with this doctor with expertise who he had talked up previously, who then wound up dead, and that's fairly suspicious. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to kind of come to a head here. I also do think that the whole Dr. Sutcliffe thing itself was pretty interesting, not just because Hannibal had set it up so there was a potential that Will might have thought that he had committed that murder, and Jack might have thought that too. That could have been a potential issue, but putting that aside, I do think it's interesting what we just saw between Hannibal and Dr. Sutcliffe, and that Hannibal can sort of sense that this person, while maybe not like Hannibal himself, is enough in that direction that he'd be willing to allow someone, a patient, to have his brain cooked simply so that he could study and observe him and potentially use that to his advantage in terms of things like publishing research and gaining fame and power in the future. So I did think that was very interesting too. But alright, yeah, another really great episode, and like I said, a lot of things I'm curious to see how they develop. So if you have any questions or comments for me, anything that you'd like to discuss you think I've missed, please do leave it down in the comment section below. And otherwise, I'll just say thank you very much for joining me today, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!